individuals need to unlearn depending on where you came from to be able to fully receive what an open and honest and wonderful organization has to offer you. And there is a wonderful way to interact with the people around you.
Yeah. I have to talk about this. People are not talking about this. People are suffering in silence. And so like when you think about like that piece of you did it alone for the most part, all those losses.
I didn't know that courage was something like saying no, that it was something as simple as that, or as powerful, I should say, as saying no to something that no longer serves me.
Welcome to Courage is Built Here, the podcast. I'm Justine Froelker, licensed professional counselor, author, speaker, and corporate trainer. Here, we bring my Courage is Built Here curriculum to life and community. Each week, I invite a guest to walk one of the 5 courageous pathways with me through authentic, sometimes tough, sometimes hilarious conversations. No performance, no polish, just real people practicing real courage with grit, grace, and a whole lot of love. Hi, friends. Welcome back to Courage is Built Here, the podcast. We are continuing on with Pathway 1, Feel It All, how to feel our feelings and not be our feelings. So Pathway 1, we begin the courage work with really doing clarity work around our values. Like, who are we? What makes me who I am? What makes me who you are? Who were we created to be? What are our guiding lights? What deeply roots us? What are our beliefs? What of those beliefs have turned into actual values? What makes me love in the way I love? What makes me lead in the way I lead? What makes us who we are? These are our values. So we talk about our values in Pathway 1. We also obviously talk about feelings. So we talk about emotional well-being, emotional language, like how there are lots of different kinds of happy. There are a lot of different kinds of mad, and I can feel more than one emotion at the same time. And they show up in my thoughts and in my behaviors and also in my body. And I have to be aware of how they show up so that I know when my thinking, rational, courageous brain is not firing because emotion has it offline. I have to slow down so that I can name my emotions and talk about them and cope with them in a healthy way, move my body so that they move through. And so in Pathway 1, we talk about really how do we take better care of our emotional well-being through being deeply rooted in our values, most especially. And so for this episode, to dive a little bit deeper in this pathway, I am welcoming my friend, Becki Feldmann. You will see very quickly that Becki is literal sunshine. I met Becki actually through the loss community. And so some of the story is a little bit hard. So I'm going to kind of make sure you just know that. And it's her story and my story, and our hard parts of our story are not our whole story. And so I originally met her through that, and then we've connected professionally, and she is now one of my friends. And she is also, like, you can find her at Bloom with Becki on all the socials. She'll go over that at the end of the episode. Also, I want to get her title right. So she is an assistant vice president, senior employee experience, and brand strategist, which comes up in our conversation quite a bit. Basically, she's incredible. And I'm so, so grateful for her friendship. And she's one of those like connectors and givers. And she walks out this work incredibly. And more than that, she like exudes it to the world and shares it with other people. So I'm really excited for you to meet her. Let's welcome her. All right. My friend Becki is here with us.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to Courage is Built Here, the podcast. Becki Feldmann. Thank you.
I am so excited to be here and also nervous.
Always.
Right?
Always the and.
Always the and.
I know. I love it. All right. We're going to jump in with a question that we always ask. We always begin our episodes with this question. When you think about courage, most especially through that lens of Pathway 1, Feel It All, is there a story or a moment that rises up for you?
Yes. And it has a lot to do with you.
Yeah.
My first experience with courage was really well. Not that I haven't had courage before. When I recognized living a courageous life was life after loss. I had two beautiful boys. My husband and I had two beautiful boys, and then we struggled with secondary infertility. So 4 consecutive losses. It was awful, and pretty much was done alone, and not talking about it at all. Um, at home or at work. Um,
Yep.
and so I really think that that was my first experience of really deciding that I was going to look at things differently and to be courageous. And part of that I learned with you. I found you through Share,
Yep.
pregnancy and infant loss. And I started to follow your work and became a fangirl and showed up at one of your events
Yep.
because it also aligns with what I do professionally.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of personal things going on that it just really resonated with me.
Yeah. And you are like, not everyone, not many people, because it's just impossible to have that many friends, but you are one of those people that, like, you cross my friend line.
I did. I did. I think I showed up and I was like, I'm going to put you in my pocket. Like, you're going to be my bestie here.
And, like, seriously, like, whenever one, when we get together for our lunches, and, like, those are just, you are sunshine in my life, and I'm so grateful for that. But two, you also, like, you show up at events that's like, you've heard this before. I know you're walking out the work. And then you always, like, somehow figure out how to market me to the other people in the room. And then you text me, which this is especially just as a teacher facilitator at heart. Like, then you text me after the fact, like, have you said it like this before? Like, I
Uh
don't know
huh.
if you have.
Yep. I'm taking notes. It was funny. I was looking at, I was rereading, and I've got a lot of stuff in front of me here, but rereading this. And the first time I ever heard you say, to feel well and to feel well,
Mhm.
you said it and I wrote it down with the emphasis. And I'm like, oh my gosh, did anybody else catch that?
Yeah,
Because it was so powerful.
yeah. That whole piece. I mean, that is pathway one. Feel it all. Like, to feel well and to feel well.
Mhm.
Like, right?
Yes. And I
It
think
takes
I
its
asked
work.
you just, and I said, did you mean it like that? And you said, yes. And it was just like one of those ahas, like tripping. I call it tripping over the truth. You're like, oh my
Uh-huh.
goodness, that was so powerful. But you didn't stop in the moment there
Mm.
um, to have people really think through it. Like if they
Yeah,
wrote it down, they probably came to that later and they were like, holy cow,
yeah,
that's huge.
yeah, yeah. So, like, we both have lost stories, and so, like,
Hmm.
and I too, like, when we were in the midst of IVF, like, we shared about it a little bit, but it was kind of like this. If you didn't know what we were going through, you just knew that we were going through something, not what the
Hmm.
specifics were, and it was like, not until we ended the journey did I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to talk about this. People are not talking about this. People are suffering in silence." And so, like, when you think about, like, that piece of, you did it alone
Hmm.
for the most part, all those
Yeah.
losses,
Hmm.
what was it, that was there a tipping point? Was there a moment? But, like, or even if you can't even think of that, like, that piece of, like, when was the first time you talked about it or shared,
Yeah.
or, like, and what was it like? Because that's a huge piece of our emotional well-being, is, like, to get it
Yeah.
out of our mouth.
Well, I think I'm going to speak to the tipping point. I think the tipping point was recognizing that I had lost myself, and I lost my light, is the way that I really think about it, because um, I am, um, I am a sunshiny
Yes.
person. I'm thinking of this award I got in high school, shiny happy person.
Really? Oh my god, that
And
totally describes you.
yeah, that was my freshman year, and just because that's who I am, and
Yeah.
I started to recognize that I wasn't enjoying anything. I was really stuck in my grief. I was stuck at work because I just wasn't at my best. I also felt stuck, with my family too. Gosh, how old were my boys at that time? I think Brady was starting maybe first grade. And I was not a good mom. I was not a good anything at that point
Yeah.
because I wasn't me. I was just like a shadow of myself. And I knew I had more to give. I'm a giver and I couldn't give anything. I mean, I was still going through the motions. I was working. I was
Mhm.
probably excelling at work to the degree that was expected of me, but um, I just wasn't going above and beyond like I normally do, to really make things happen and do
Mhm.
really cool things. I
Mhm.
was just going through the motions of life.
Yeah. Yeah. So then when did you actually how do you begin?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
that's
that it
where
was
the
that
beginning.
it was like 'cause
Yeah.
I think it like it's like we've kept it in, right? Only turning toward our partner, spouse
Hmm.
probably, which only puts more pressure on that.
Yep.
And, like, we have to begin with someone or something
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah. So it actually was my faith. And what's interesting because there's a question that you asked in the book about, when you think about those hard times in your life, what got you through? And I had to think about that for a moment because my answer is faith, but faith isn't what got me through. The way that I said it to myself is faith is what brought me back.
Oh,
So I didn't use my faith as I was going through it, but at some point, faith brought me back, if
brought
that
you
makes
home.
sense. So I grew up Catholic. I think we
Yeah.
keep going back to some of, your values,
Yeah.
they're rooted by the time you're 10, I think is what research shows. Yeah, so I grew up with a strong family, strong faith, strong foundation,
Yeah.
and that's what I got back to. I got back to recognizing and being able to receive love from not just God, but also love from people who wanted to help me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't open to that previously. I
Mhm.
was like, I can do this. I can do this on my own.
Mhm.
And I absolutely cannot. And I now, say that I'm not held by my own strength. It's, it's my faith and it's the
Yeah.
people around me,
Yeah.
that make me better.
Mhm. Mhm. Do you think people like okay, you said I was not a good mom, right? And
Mhm.
I was working and I was excelling at work and yet I wasn't going above and beyond. Like and I wonder cuz like whenever I share about the infertility side of my story in
Mhm.
any of my events, like one of the one of the things that really has stuck with me is I had somebody say like, "I'm so glad that you talk about infertility and loss because that is part of creating a culture of belonging." Like
Mhm.
people are sitting beside people who are like literally maybe having a miscarriage. Like or they
Absolutely.
are fighting through IVF and nobody knows and things like that. And so like when you think back to when you started to almost when you came home to yourself, really, and back to the value piece, not that they ever left, you just found
Mhm.
peace again.
Mhm.
What did people see at work? Right, like, especially like, was there a
Well,
before and after, right?
yeah,
Like, there
that's interesting because I left. I
Mhm,
had to go, because that was the big shift, that I recognized that I didn't feel that there were people around me who valued me for who I was. It was my output that they wanted, and didn't care about me as a person.
mhm,
There were uh, times because there were four miscarriages over the course of
right,
4 years, that I would go home after anesthesia and work. Not okay. You're
right,
supposed to go to bed. But there were challenges and they needed me. And I didn't have boundaries. So all these words that you have taught me, Justine, I didn't have boundaries. So anyway, so the before and after was I recognized that I am worth more than what I was experiencing.
yeah,
So I left. I actually um thought that I was done with corporate at that time. I
Yeah.
opened up my own LLC and I said, I'm not going to work in an environment where people are just ghosts to one another. That
Yeah.
I went to one of my appointments. They said there was no heartbeat. I went back and sat at my desk and no one asked, where were you?
Yeah.
Or, and so it was that feeling of being alone, not being seen, heard, or valued. And I said, I can't do this anymore. So I left. So that's the before and
Oh,
after, and I will never settle for less.
yeah.
I talk about my worth it equation now. And my worth it equation with where I work and what I do even in my side business,
Yeah.
it has to check the box of all of my values. And if it doesn't, I have to ask myself, am I focusing my time and my energy in the right spaces? Because this is what allows me to carry my light.
Right.
And if I'm not, the answer is no. And I didn't always operate like that. Um, I started to kind of get glimpses of it that I wasn't necessarily doing the things that lit me up. I was doing what the world expected of me. And now I operate very, very differently.
Mhm. That whole piece of, like, I think so well, so many of us do this, but especially women. We show up as who we're expected to be,
Mhm,
who we're supposed to be, who the world tells us we're supposed to be. I mean, it's always my favorite question to ask a room, especially a room of women, like, who are you outside of the roles that you play to other
mhm.
people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, because you're more than those roles. It's part yes, it's part of who you are, but you're more than that at the same time. And so it's like that piece, and so, even as you're talking about that, it's like, how much of that led you, I mean, literally in your title is employee experience. What
yes,
do you do?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I want people to know that it's different. Where I am, and
Yeah.
and there's some things that individuals need to unlearn depending on where you came from to be able to fully receive what
Mm.
an open and honest and wonderful organization has to offer you. And that's where, people are armored up because
Yeah.
of their past experiences that they've had. And so it is very different at commerce.
Yeah.
And I think some people need to unlearn. If you've come from an environment like I came from, that there is a different way.
Right.
And there is a wonderful way to interact with the people around
Yeah.
you.
Well, it's that, I mean, you said it, to feel seen, known, and
Hmm.
loved,
Yeah.
which requires you to be all of who you are.
Yes.
And it does, it's interesting though, because, like, you had this, like, new, like, worth it equation, like, it has to match up
Mhm.
to all of my values. That's the front end work that we have to be responsible for in
Yes.
order to really walk into to exist in the spaces that we feel seen, known, and loved, right?
Mhm.
Like, I have to
Yep.
have clarity of my values. I have
Yes.
to be able to say, like, is this space aligned in some ways? It doesn't mean that they have to have the exact same values by any means. Are these values aligned though? Can I see that?
Mhm.
Because then that will lead us to feel seen, known, and loved in those spaces. Now, I mean, of course, there's always going to be spaces that we have to walk into that are not going to align.
Mhm.
And at the same time, how much time are you spending there?
Yes. Right. Right.
Right? Like, but there is, I think that's the first time I've thought of it like that. Like, we are responsible for having that clarity of who we are, who we were created to be, what our values
Mhm.
are.
Yep.
How do we bring those into the systems and spaces that we exist in?
Yep. Yeah.
Because
Well,
that
and
is
think
almost
about
sometimes
just
like our demanding of, like, no, I demand to be a full human here.
mhm. And also, I think it comes into just, I mean, if you think about your role in an organization too, I'm thinking about just job satisfaction. I saw something the other day, and it's funny because none of this is new stuff. It's just each individual is responsible for understanding their values first and foremost. And then also going through those steps of questions of what are you good at? What do you enjoy? What do you want to bring to the table? What is going to light you? Like you're responsible for that. And if you don't figure that out, you are not going to enjoy what you do. You know, I'm not saying people have to love what they do. I do personally. I
Yeah.
have to love what I
Me
do.
too.
That's who I am. But it starts with values. It starts with understanding that. And if you don't, I just think it's your guide, it's your
Yeah.
roadmap. You have to have that.
Mhm.
And that's where what you base decisions off of. And I think you said this, Justine. You said when decisions are easy, when your values are clear.
Mhm.
I think that's important for an individual and for an organization
Oh, for
as
sure.
you think about core values for an organization. And at Commerce, ours are pretty clear
Yeah.
and it guides the way that we live and work. And that's why people feel seen, heard, and valued
Mhm.
because we are true to our values.
Mhm.
And I just think that's the alignment that we're talking about here.
Yeah. And it comes back to, like, not only are decisions easier because
Hmm.
they're deeply rooted in our
Yeah.
values, it, like, also mean like, everything else that falls from that is easier because it's in behaviors. It's not just words
Yep.
on a
Yep.
wall or a
Yep.
website. It's in how we speak to each other and how we show up in meetings and the
Yep.
expectations that are set, even in Zoom calls, things like that. Like,
Hmm.
these little tiny, the big things, obviously, and
Hmm.
also the tiny things.
Yep.
I
All
don't, because it
intentional,
is like,
all
I
super
wonder,
intentional
like, the more
behavior.
and more, like, the more tired, burnt out, stressed out that people are, and the more they're being asked to do with less at work, especially, it's going to be those tiny pieces, actually, that will really accumulate. They'll compound for
Hmm.
when the big stuff happens,
Yep.
like layoffs or acquisitions, for that matter. Like, that's where that trust. It
It's the
all.
foundation. It's
It
the root.
is.
Yeah. And you need that. I mean, as an individual, you think about so growth people think is up, but growth is also down
Down.
and rooting.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to have that solid ground.
Mhm.
And if you think back to my tipping point, I somehow got unrooted at some point that I wasn't super clear. So I just let the wind take me wherever,
Yeah.
wherever people wanted me to go,
Yeah.
wherever they said, we need you over here. And I lost my footing because I wasn't clear in my values. So I think that we're coming full circle here.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's having your sure footing, having that foundation, knowing who you are, knowing and feeling it all and how to tell when you're out of alignment. I know
Mhm.
absolutely how I feel when I'm out of alignment, and it's awful. It is
Yeah.
awful.
And it's like,
And other
and it helps
people
to, like,
feel
know,
it.
like, the feeling, but also then, like, what is that, like, ooh, that thing that, like, that symptom, right? Like, know your tells, know your
Uh-huh.
symptoms of when you're outside of those values. I mean, like,
Yes.
even like yesterday, I think I said it on my Instagram stories. I was like, also, Chad wants me to tell you all that I am extra crabby because of, like, where I am and, like, hormone cycles. So yeah, you're getting the curmudgeon. Like, and
Yep.
it's like one of my symptoms, like when I have no grace for the driver in front of me. When I'm extra crabby, curmudgeony, like, and it's like, oh my word, you're not your best self. What are your
Yes.
values? How does that reflect your values?
Yes. Oh my gosh, we had a situation, and Dave, you talk about you need someone accountable to
Always.
call you in. But mine is crabby also when I don't have full control.
Oh yeah. Which you
It was
never have.
no, never.
Okay.
We don't, and that's good. We shouldn't.
Yes.
But our the moment was Brady getting his outfit out for picture day, and I think he was so proud of himself for the I don't know if I want to call it an outfit that he put together, but I was like, you cannot wear this, and I had way more of a reaction to this outfit than I needed.
Uh-huh.
Like I needed just to say, "Cool,
Yep.
awesome," because they're only taking the picture from the waist up. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
But I decided to have. I
Uh-huh.
was hurling hurt. I was
Uh-huh.
hurling hurt because I was tired. I didn't get what I needed to get in to be at my best, and
Yep.
so it came out at
Yeah.
9 p.m. at night because I didn't want him wearing gray pants and a black shirt and a navy blazer. I mean, can you picture this. It was
I love it.
interesting.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And then we get that and it comes out, and then when you realize it,
Yeah.
you get to model the work for your son.
Yes, I did. I walked back up there because I sat there and I was like, I can't go to bed like this. So I
Yeah.
walked up and I said, buddy, that was not me at my best.
Yep.
I just I said I don't think those things match, but I understand that you are going to be taking off your blazer the minute after you take your photo and you're just going to be in the shirt and pants and all is well. You also go to an all boys school and there are some kids who are wearing shorts with blazers.
Right.
So, it is none of I did not need to I did not need to be in that and I did apologize and he
Okay.
accepted it, which
Okay.
kind of him because I was not
Yeah.
nice.
It is truly I think that is one of the most powerful things that can happen in homes for parents to say and come back and say, "I screwed that up. Like,
Yeah.
that wasn't cool, and I am sorry, and, this is what I'm gonna try to do to make sure it doesn't happen
Mhm.
again." Like,
Yeah.
it's important for them to see that cycle. Like, you're
Yeah.
not this is not perfection. This work is never perfection. It's
Yep.
walking it out, and we are going to screw it up even when
Yep.
you live and breathe it, and when you screw it up, you own it
Yep.
because that
Yep.
will build trust with people.
Yeah. And I think the whole naming the feeling, like,
Yeah.
what was it? It was that I was tired. It's that
Yeah.
I was anxious. There's some new things that I'm learning at work, and so
Okay.
my brain is on overload right
Right.
now.
Yep.
And that's how it came out. I should have just read my book and gone to bed.
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
So,
And been like, "Dude can wear his navy
uh-huh.
blazer
Wear
with the"
wear 3 different colors and a totally different color tie. Cool.
I can imagine. I mean, you are a very fashionable person. So, like, I could see that it also maybe rubbed up a little bit against, like,
Yeah,
"Wait a minute."
I do have good fashion advice here.
Oh my god, I love it.
It was
I
not
love
the
it.
time and place for it.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. All right, I've got 2 questions for you for
Okay.
close. Okay, so my first question, the first q the closing question I ask all of my guests: when has courage looked different than you expected, and then what did it teach you?
Hmm. Well, I think I didn't know that courage could be I I'm thinking back to my kind of turnaround and this happens all the time. I didn't know that courage was something like saying no. Um that it was something as simple as that or as powerful, I should say,
Ooh,
as saying no to something that no longer serves me. And using my voice to say I'm not going to do that anymore or um
yeah.
I'm going to change directions. Like I didn't know that that was courage,
Hmm.
but it is.
So
I
is.
don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah,
it's something that I have to practice that daily. It's really hard, to say no, and that's where boundaries come in. And I'm not wonderful at that. That's why that's one of my favorite reminders and lessons.
mhm,
Is to choose courage even when it's hard, because it's worth it.
yeah,
Um, and it just in those small moments of no, that's not aligned.
yeah,
Whether it's speaking up when you hear someone say something,
yeah,
um, or if it's you see someone doing something that is not okay, or maybe aligned with how I think I can voice and say, "Hey, that's courage."
yeah,
I never recognized those little things as courage, but it is because it's me sharing my values
mm,
out loud.
so true. And you know what, like, they are simple, saying no or changing your mind or those things, they're simple and really hard because
Really hard,
most of us
really
have
hard.
never been allowed to or taught to how to do
Hmm.
those things,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? Yeah, I love it. That's so good. Okay, your last question.
Okay.
What's a time your courage and your values lined up in a way that shaped your life?
Oh gosh. Oh, drop the big one at the end. Okay. When has courage and my values lined up.
Yeah.
Hmm. This one is going to be not necessarily professional, but maybe it
Yeah.
is because it's related to my to what I do with Jay Bloom.
Mm-hmm.
But I stepped away from a business where I made money and chose to instead support friends who own businesses
Mm.
because of my values of community and relationships. I just wanted to give back. It was no longer something that I wanted to do as a business. And because it was taking the life out of me,
Yeah.
I courageously chose to pour into my friends. And it has given me back way more than I ever could have imagined. And they're very thankful for me, but I tell them, like, I want to do this. This is why I'm here. I think I was meant to help you
Yeah.
um, without expecting anything in return.
Yep.
But that was a big kind of
Yeah.
step in a decision to end something, to change direction. And it was because of my values of, well, faith, family, community, relationships, and health.
Uh-huh.
I know you say I can only have two or three, but I have several. But when I bottle them up, it's making a
Well,
difference.
that's when you come to the full training, we'll get it narrowed down
Oh,
and you'll get
I
an
know. But
umbrella
but
term.
if I have to bottle it up because I have written two of them before, it's making a difference. And so that was a courageous
Yeah.
decision for me. Is how can I make the greatest difference? And it was to walk away and to start something new.
It's amazing. That's amazing. And that is totally your heart. Like you are truly one of the most generous people I know. And like one of those super connectors, which doesn't happen a lot in the city that we live in.
Yes.
We're in
Yeah.
St. Louis, Missouri. We are not like, it's not a thing here. We don't have
Yeah.
this thing. It's like, oh my gosh, I know who I need to connect you with. And then they actually go and connect you with that person.
Yeah.
It's
Like
not
that's
a
my
thing.
goal in any conversation really is
Yeah.
if and you will find the connection if you really listen
Yeah.
for it.
Totally.
And that's my goal. I want to help connect people who can walk hand in hand and do amazing things together.
Yep. I love it. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for
Yes,
being my
thank you.
friend. Thank you for coming on this podcast. I know you were a little nervous and you did great.
Oh,
You did
yeah,
great.
it was fun. It
Okay,
wasn't as
good.
scary. So,
Where can would you do you want to direct people? Where can they find you? Where can they
yeah.
connect with you?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm all over the socials.
Yep.
So you can find me on LinkedIn. You're going to find a little bit of different content on LinkedIn than you might find on some of my other social platforms. But you'll find me on Instagram under Bloom with Becky. You'll find me on Facebook underneath that same Bloom with Becky. I am on TikTok. I don't love it, but if you're there, I really don't love
I
it,
know.
but
It's
I'm
fun.
there. And the reason I don't like it is because I don't think it's real connection. Like
Mhm.
I love Instagram and Facebook more for that because I want to get to know you.
Yeah.
So that's where you can find me.
Okay.
Bloom with Becky. I also have a website, bloomwithbecky.com,
Awesome.
that you can check out.
Yeah.
I am trying to get more into blogging over there.
Love it.
And I'm always just sharing randomness of things that were helpful to me, resources that I follow that might be helpful to you.
Yep.
So
Awesome. We'll link it in the show notes.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to the Courage is Built Here podcast. Whether you're brand new to this work or living it out loud every day, I hope today was helpful, hopeful, and a reminder that you're not alone. What one bit of courage will you take from this episode, and how will you walk it out? If this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend, leave us a review, and please make sure you like and subscribe. New episodes come out every Wednesday on your favorite podcast platform and Fridays on YouTube. For more resources, head to JustineFroelker.com and click to my store. Because courage isn't a one-time thing, it's built right here, one small choice at a time, and especially between us.